Ciao a tutti e benvenuti al tavolo italiano, and the third installment of tips on learning Italian. The first video we just basically gave an introduction, let you know what was coming, talked about the topics we were going to talk about. Then the second installment we talked about the first mistake, people that don't put enough emphasis on learning simple things like the alphabet and pronunciation, which is easy to do because it's just not as fun and you don't feel like you're learning Italian when in reality it's building the most solid foundation you can possibly build. Now this topic is being realistic, and I will try to stay within the time frame that was my goal, but if you haven't noticed, I tend to talk a lot. I've given this one a lot of thought because I think this is actually one of the most important topics. I know that there are some of you out there that are chomping at the bit on, Chuck, what's the best way to learn the vocabulary, or how are some tips to make this easier? And we'll get to those. But I think this one's more important because if you can get a grasp on this, you'll keep going and you won't fall out. You know, there are three areas in which I'm going to talk about being realistic. I'm not talking about setting realistic goals. In fact, in the next video, we're going to talk about setting your goals, what you want to do with Italian, and what are realistic goals to do it. I'm not going to talk so much about incrementalism. We might touch on it a little bit, but we do learn a language incrementally, at least the way that I teach it, and I think probably the way anybody learns it. But the three areas that I'm going to talk about being realistic in are, number one, it takes effort. Number two, don't be too hard on yourself. And number three, learn to cherish the journey as well as the destination. So the first one is realizing, be realistic in how you look at this, okay? I mean, like I stated in an earlier video, while I love some programs, I hate the commercials. Learn how to speak a language in 10 minutes. The real reason why I really hate those commercials is subconsciously, all of us know we're not going to learn in 10 minutes, but we get the feeling that it's going to be far easier than it is. And I'll be honest with you, it takes a lot of effort to learn a language. I'm not going to lie to you. But I will tell you, it's worth it. Especially with Italian. Beautiful language. And the more I learn, the more I love this language. And the more I've fallen in love with the country of Italy and various aspects of the culture and the Italian people I've met. It's been an incredible experience. But realistically, from the beginning, I could see it was going to take effort. You know, one of the first things that a lot of people have asked me in the various workshops I've had the opportunity to teach in person is, how much do I really have to study to learn Italian? Well, you know, that's kind of a loaded question in the first place. It depends on a lot of variables, who you are, what kind of an aptitude you have for learning a language, what you want to get out of it. But that really being besides the point, looking at it realistically, or using a bit of a different attitude, instead of how much do I have to study, how about, you know, this is what I want to accomplish, how much can I put into this kind of a thing. It's gonna take effort. And by effort, I'm not talking about just studying itself, although I am talking studying itself too. Sometimes it can be deceiving how much effort it's going to take. And a great example is what we talked about last week, or not last week, excuse me, but in the last session where I was talking about pronunciation. A lot of people just don't put a lot into it. You know, one or two times, a, e, o, u. That's really not practicing, but it is. Because you want it to become second nature. It's going to take a little more effort. Even if you think you have it, try to stick with one lesson a week and put forth the effort into practicing every day. You do that, it'll become a part of you. It'll become part second nature for you instead of having to think about it. Another way it's going to take effort is in speaking. I used to tell a lot of my students when I taught workshops in Charleston, South Carolina, that if you don't speak Italian, you're not going to learn Italian. And so everyone had to take a turn, whether they wanted to or not, which actually was a lot of fun. A lot of people that want to learn Italian don't want to speak Italian for a long, long time because they're afraid they're going to make a mistake, which brings me to my second, being realistic. And that is, don't be too hard on yourself. Okay, so we get a little overlap here. The being realistic about it takes effort. You're going to have to speak. You're going to have to speak. Why? Because if you don't, you rob yourself opportunities of learning. One of the best ways to learn is through the mistakes we make. Those are some of the most memorable lessons that I have. I'll never forget when I learned that bene, well, the difference between bene and buono. Okay? Buono is an adjective. Bene is an adverb. It's like well and good. I am doing well. Or my mother cooks well. My mother is a good cook. Same thing with bene and buono. We were having a meetup, actually, in Charleston, actually in Daniel Island at a pizza place. And a woman who was part of the group, who spoke Italian far better than I did, came up and she asked me, she was Carlo, and she asked me in Italian how my pizza was. And I said, oh, è bene. And she looked at me and she started, didn't laugh, but a little bit of a chuckle. And she goes, no, non è bene, è buono. And then she proceeded to tell me the difference between the two words. And you know what? I've never, ever forgotten that. Was I embarrassed? Yeah, a little bit. But that was a lesson that stuck with me. And I've been able to teach that to many people since then. And I haven't used it wrong. Or at least in that case, I haven't tried to use bene in place of buono. I learned. But I only learned because I spoke up. I tried. How many, and I'm sure many, many of you that are watching this video right now have seen, even on Facebook, where I'll write something and one of our Italian friends will correct me, which is fine. Not only do I not mind that, I actually like that because I learn from that. It takes effort. It takes speaking. And now the part about don't be too hard on yourself, you're just learning. Especially if you're just starting. Don't expect too much from yourself. If you can't understand what they're saying right away, that's okay. It takes time. I studied Italian for 3 years, maybe 4, before I really began to understand when Italian spoke to me at a normal pace. It was frustrating. Many times I thought I'll never learn this language, but I kept keeping on, believing that it would come. I tried to not be too hard on myself. When I make mistakes, you know what? A lot of times I should have known better. Some of them were mistakes that I've made before, but I made them again. So what? I'm human. Trust me. I know that many of you who are a little bit farther along in Italian, or maybe we have some of our Italian friends ourselves watching, or themselves watching. Trust me, I make a lot of mistakes. But I just keep putting myself out there, and I keep trying, and I keep pushing the envelope, going a little bit further, stepping outside of my comfort zone, saying words I'm not as familiar with, or trying to use sentence constructions that I'm not familiar with. I can't say I do that on purpose, I'm just not afraid to do that. And I learn when I do those things. And when I get it wrong, it's like, oh, mamma mia, sometimes I think I'll never learn or whatever. So sometimes even I'm hard on myself, but usually I am not. Usually it's like, oh, okay. And I learn from my mistakes. And it's actually a wonderful experience. And not only that, but you got to realize you are being more hard on yourself than anyone else is. When I speak it, in Italian, quando io parlo italiano con gli italiani, tanti di miei amici italiani mi hanno detto, Carlo, il tuo italiano è bello. So I said, when I speak Italian to Italians, many of my Italian friends say, Chuck, your Italian's beautiful. Why do they say that? Because I'm fluent? No, because I'm not fluent. Do they say that because my Italian really is beautiful, that I speak with an Italian accent? No, I speak with a heavy American accent, I'm sure. But what's beautiful about it is they can see that for me, learning Italian has become a passion. And communicating with them in their mother language has become a passion. And to them, that's respect, that's honor. At least a lot of them have voiced that to me. They love it. And they're more than willing to help. They're beautiful people. And, and I'm just learning. How many of you would take a child that said something wrong grammatically and just really come down hard on them? Absolutely not. You might direct them and try to teach them the right way, but you're not going to be real hard on them. They're a child. They're just learning. It's the same thing with us. We're just learning. So you know what? Lighten up. Don't take it so seriously. But make note of your mistakes when someone teaches you the right way, and it will catapult your learning experience. If you can do it with a great attitude and not being hard on yourself, it'll turn your fears into opportunities and your discouragements into learning opportunities. Which brings me to the last point about being realistic about your Italian learning experience. While our end goals are great, and my end goal is to be able to speak Italian like an Italian. Will I ever achieve it? Who knows? Maybe, maybe not. And I'm not going to say I really don't care, but it's not as important to me as the learning process. Because I love learning Italian now. I love learning little things. I love being able to converse to the degree that I can converse now. I even joke around in Italian, which is really fun. That was a landmark moment for me when I could begin to joke around in Italian. I'm beginning to understand, not all, but some of the inside jokes that Italians have. I mean, they view the world differently than we do in a lot of ways, and the language reflects that. I enjoy a lot of the things I'm learning about learning Italian. And I believe everything you do in life opens up opportunities for other things. I never would have dreamed I would have gone to Italy the 3 times that I've gone so far. Never would have dreamt that I'd met all the beautiful people I know learning Italian. It's just opened up a whole new world to me. I've made a lot of new friends. Take you, for instance, watching this video. Many of you, just in the first 2 videos of this series, have written me emails, and I've gotten all kinds of responses, almost all of them positive, because I'm on my journey to learn Italian. And every time I teach anything about Italian, even the tips to learning Italian, I learn something new myself. So, in your experience in learning Italian, be realistic. 3 things. It's going to take effort. But that's not a bad thing. All good things take effort. So it's going to take effort, number 1. Number 2, you're not going to learn everything the first time the right way. So don't be too hard on yourself. You're learning. And number 3, enjoy the journey. Don't just look at the end result. Enjoy what you're going through right now. Enjoy the journey. Meet some friends. Put yourself out there. Get on the El Tavolo Facebook page. Join the El Tavolo Facebook group. And try to start a conversation in Italian. I'm sure some of our Italian friends will help you out. And then you'll have friends overseas. Okay? Or become an El Tavolo pen pal. You know, there are many ways. Find a local meetup group. And we'll talk about that in another lesson or another video of this series. I don't want to get off beat. And I've probably talked too much as it is. So, be realistic and hang in there. Next video, we're going to talk about setting your goals and how to determine what are good goals to set. But for now, ciao.